Medieval Combat video review. This time it's Sir Marcus Hammerhand on the right and Viscount Ulfgar on the left. This is practice footage from the SCA. So it's following SCA rules. They're not necessarily fighting full speed, or sorry, I should say they're not necessarily fighting to win. They're fighting for training purposes, but they are fighting full speed, full power. Any blow to the knee or below or wrist and up doesn't count, otherwise it's full body targeting, no grappling. Standard SCA rules. So I haven't reviewed this footage yet. We're going to be going through it for the first time together for me, so let's see what there is to see. Right off the bat, I'm Sir Avery. Full disclosure, I was Sir Marcus's squire, but I like Ulfgar better. No, they're both awesome dudes. Right off the bat, the first things that I noticed during setup, Sir Marcus is obviously right-handed fighting with an arm-strapped heater shield. Ulfgar also right-handed fighting with a center grip, round shield, and he's got more of a forward guard. Marcus presently has what a lot of people refer to as Old Castle or a rear guard. So basically, when the sword is back behind the head, you have better power and delivery, but a longer wind-up and less defense. Ulfgar's sword in front of his face is a little bit more protection. Knowing Sir Marcus, he's going to bring that sword forward as he closes range. So at long range, he starts with his sword back. Medium range, you'll see it over his head. Short range, you'll see it in front of his face or throwing. So let's take a look at the first pass, and what we'll do is we'll go through sort of until we find a particularly interesting pass, and then we might take a look at that in slow motion, or we might take a look at that even frame by frame if that seems fruitful. So let's take a look. So we're sort of sizing each other up. Ulfgar closes range. Marcus does an overhead chop, which is meant to be safe, a safe way to close. So that overhead chop isn't really meant as a throw. Let's take a quick look at that. So this is a particularly Marcus move. He's not trying to hit Ulfgar with this overhead chop, and it's sort of a diagonal chop. We see it right there. So as soon as, let's see who initiates the movement. Ulfgar's already taken a half step forward to get a little extra range. You see him take that step. Marcus is leaning, ready to counter, and what he does is he throws that blow straight down, and with his basket hits Ulfgar's sword. So what he's trying to do with that attack is actually defend with the sword and maybe get a free shot with it. So he chops Ulfgar's shot down with his basket hilt. Ulfgar's shot hits the edge of Marcus's shield. Ulfgar gets his shield to block Marcus's counter. They both close in. Here we see a little bit of incidental body contact. Marcus is touching his shield against Ulfgar's armpit. That's allowed if it's not intentional. In the SCA, you're not allowed to haul off and jack someone with an intentional shield punch. But if you're both closing in and you're not intentionally trying to hit each other, a little bit of body-to-shield contact is okay. Now, in this position, they both step forward, chest to chest. Neither of them's leaning. Neither of them wants to give ground, because if they back out, they might get hit on the way out. Ulfgar looks like he's chambered for an offside shot. Marcus is winding up for probably an onside or wrap at this point. And they can actually see each other probably a little better than we can see them right now, because Ulfgar's shield's a little low, and although Marcus might be blind on the left side, he can probably see with the right side of his head. So they both throw again, and in this case, Ulfgar does get that offside. It looks like it comes in and hits Marcus in the shoulder, perhaps. And to get that offside to work, you see, if we go backwards here, so Ulfgar's sword is pretty fouled, but very quickly he steps in, gets his sword out. Marcus helps Ulfgar free his sword by pulling his own sword back. Ulfgar chambers up, and then this is what you see a lot of center grip fighters do. Bends to the left with his trunk. You'll see his upper body bend sort of away this way. Some guys just lean the head. Some guys bend the whole trunk over. And then chamber up, and then you'll see this sword uncorked that way. While the offside is thrown. Now, the other thing that makes that shot land that not everybody would do is if you take a look at Ulfgar's hand placement, look at his hand placement as he throws that shot. So if we go back, sorry, go on, that's forward. If we go back, see, he uses his elbow first, pushes Marcus's shield down a little bit, and he keeps the hand above the edge of the shield. So it's a little bit of a tough position to throw that offside from. And especially the mechanics can be tough if someone's pushing you with a shield edge or whatever, but Ulfgar gets enough body mechanics to throw that shot in. And you can see it land pretty good, it looks like. Glances a little bit, but my suspicion is, without being able to really hear it, Marcus took that shot. So here's the next pass. Now, they both also have thrusting tips on their swords, so both of them can stab each other. That's a pretty standard attempt at an offside leg. I think Mrks is saying that's light. Probably light because Mrks stepped out. There's a fending offside. If we take a look at this shot, interestingly, it looks like just one swing and a miss, but it actually, to me, is an interesting shot. So because it's low risk. So here you see Ulfgar, right there, he's set up for the offside, steps down on that foot, sees Mrks coming in, and now you see him, he pivots the same way with that body. Like I said, a lot of guys with center grip shields throwing the offside, rotate to their trunk over so they bend at the waist sideways and throw that offside. And he's actually protected his head, and he's got it covered while he throws that. If anything, Mrks is a bit of a shot there into the leg. I'm sorry, I meant to use this thing, there in the leg. But it would be tough to time, and you're likely going to take it in the head from a bread and butter shot like that offside that Ulfgar throws. And notice that Ulfgar's pulling his leg back a little as he does it. So Mrks thinks the better of it. We rewind back. See, Mrks winds up to initiate here, steps in. Ulfgar's like, I'm going to hit you in the head and get my leg out of there. Mrks sees that offside coming and backs out, and that's why it misses. So even though it just looks like a bit of a swing and a miss, there's actually a lot going on. In this case, we see now Ulfgar's forearm is exposed. That could be a bait because I know Ulfgar fights inter-kingdom a lot, and a lot of kingdoms will hit you in the arm if you leave it out. Or it could just be an An Tir thing. Less so in recent years from what I understand, but in An Tir, the West, Kaid, and a lot of kingdoms along the west coast of North America, it's considered, unchivalrous to hit your opponent in the arm. I know Mrks is probably not going to throw at it because I know he's not, that's something he doesn't tend to do. But that forearm has come out. So it's either a bait, like hit me in the arm and I'm going to counter, or it's something that he's going to need to protect. So let's continue forward. There's that same warding chop that we saw Mrks throw before. A couple more interesting shots. We can break the mechanics down. Mrks has a different way of developing power and throwing shots than a lot of people, so I'll go back through that couple shot exchange here. So if we go back to where Mrks threw that warding shot, see, he throws that same shot we saw at the beginning, that sort of chop, as Ulfgar throws his shot. And he's backing out. It's a safe shot. So Ulfgar's going for the face. Mrks didn't step into it, right? So now the next little exchange. You see Mrks is really driving forward. See, that left foot's in the air. He's left it in the air. Now he's driving off that left leg, getting a lot of power. Ulfgar's sort of stepping into it a little bit. And here you see Mrks' shields coming pretty far up. Now, you might think that's leaving the leg open, but what it's actually doing, I think Mrks is aware that Ulfgar's sword is there, and he's tracking the sword. So what he's doing is called an offensive shield style, as opposed to a defensive shield style, where you're just trying to leave the shield in a position that might look more like this, so you're generally blocked, right? So what he's trying to do is project it towards that sword to keep him safe as he charges in, and instead of throwing right away, he's now chambered up, he's looking for an opening. At this point, if I were Mrks and able to think really quickly, it looks like maybe Ulfgar's arm is open, or the far side of his left leg is open to the wrap, especially if you can make some shield contact here and pin Ulfgar's shield. So let's see what Mrks does. He doesn't see the opening, so now he's taken 2 steps in. He's threatened to throw a couple times, but he's still waiting for an opening, and here we see Ulfgar going again for the bread and butter, bend to the left at the waist and throw the offside. And bam! It looks like, it's a little hard to tell, it either hits Mrks in the basket or the head. Mrks throws the big humming wrap. Now this is, if you look at Mrks' leg position, it looks like he's kind of out of balance, but when you look at the momentum moving forward, he's actually pivoting against that momentum. And the way he throws the wrap, you can see it looks a bit like it's hitting flat, perhaps, or that it just didn't quite get there. Maybe Ulfgar got the basket hilt up to block in time, or it might have landed a little bit flat. It's hard to say. So let's continue on. The other thing is Ulfgar had some really good backward foot movement while doing that. Okay, same setups again. Same chop as he closed. And Ulfgar pulled the leg. And that sound, boy, that sound reminds me of living in An Tir. The sound of your metal legs getting destroyed by concrete as you fight. So it's going to be a little tough to see, but Ulfgar's looks like Justice. It's kind of hard to tell. So he throws that initial shot to wind up, and he's actually... So what he does with the first shot is he's intentionally sort of skipping it up so that he can get the return and go down. So instead of driving the blade directly into Marcus's block, he's sort of skipping it off so that he can get some power for the second shot. It looks like it hits Marcus clean in the leg. So the first shot moves the shield up, freezes the shield for a moment, and then the second shot drives into the leg. And then Marcus, another one of those overhand diagonal chops, again, keeping Ulfgar at bay. In this case, you see Ulfgar look over his shoulder. In the SCA, we try to make sure that if you're standing and your opponent's kneeling, you're not facing them into the sun, because that sort of blinds them. So Ulfgar's turning Marcus so that Marcus doesn't have to look into the sun to fight him. There's our first attempted thrust of the day. Ulfgar goes for offside slot body and actually lands it. So really good shot. If you look at the mechanics, this one's hard to get the angle. We can't quite see it, but to get this with power, what he's trying to do is throw right past this edge of Marcus's shield. And if you were looking through Ulfgar's eyes, you might not even see this side of Marcus's body. You might be able to see it a bit, or you might just know that it's there. And if you can get your hand far enough if Ulfgar can get his hand far enough to the left while throwing a shot, then he can get a sword past the edge of Marcus's shield. So we put it in slow-mo, and look at his mechanics. Steps, and gets all of his power from the drop. Right, so if we look at this, he takes a step there, drives the hand up, and then it's a straight moulinet, and he's really got the elbow out as he throws that to get the angle and still drive with power into the body. And then a pretty typical defense, shield over the face and get out after the shot. And it's no coincidence that Ulfgar's sword is left there, because that provides defense against that leg. So really, if Marcus hadn't been killed by that blow, in this position, that's the only target on Ulfgar, unless Marcus were to take a big sliding step forward on his knees and go for the wrap. It looks like maybe that first shot landed. A little hard to tell. So if we look, they're still in the same guards. It looks like Marcus took that shot. So at this point, it looks to me, the moment Marcus stepped forward, I was like, okay, now he's experimenting, right? So he's been doing the same guard this whole time. Now he's gone into practice mode. He's going to start experimenting. Instead of opening with that chop, he tries the thrust. Doesn't look like the thrust is going to land, so he stops. And at this point, Marcus isn't necessarily playing his best game. He's not really in guard. Now he's actually starting at a closer range than he has in the past with his head open. Steps forward, and the tip of his sword is forward. There's a bit of an opening there on the right-hand side of the head. Ulfgar sees it. You can see this to me is like the heel of anticipation, right? Like right there you can see I'm hungry, right? So, and to get that angle, and he makes sure that he's got it, he actually comes up on that foot. He's now standing entirely on his right leg so that he can get up and over the corner of Marcus's shield. So it's not just getting the blade into a parallel orientation. What he's done is he's looking at defeating the edge of that shield partially by bringing the blade up, but also in a way that we can't really see here, he's also angled it into the depth, right? So his hand is a little bit towards us, the tip is a little bit away from us as the camera. So that's a pretty sweet shot, and it's pretty quick, right? I've seen this particular type of snap a few times. Watching old video of me, I died to a couple of these. So I kind of want to learn this. This is a right foot forward sort of hop rising snap. So that right foot, a little bit of forward momentum, and a hop to get that shot in, and then back down. And you can even see the amount of body mechanics and momentum that goes into it, because you see Ulfgar settle after it's done. So it's not like he stands on one leg and pirouettes. He's got enough upward momentum that both of his feet come down. And look at, he's landed in an awesome position to uncork an offside follow-up as well. He's got that elbow out past the edge of his own shield. And if he needs to, he can uncork right into that spot. Now, I believe Mrks has taken the headshot. He's prepared to block with the sword with that offside, but he's already taken the headshot. So he blocks it. You know, you don't want to take the double-up shot anyway, even if you're already dying. All right, so now Mrks, having been hit with a fast shot, now you see his sword is in position to guard a little bit more, right? A little bit less experimental. Ulfgar still playing his main game. Ulfgar attempts the same shot. Did that land? A little hard to tell, sorry. Went quick. So here we see Mrks he drives a lot of power with his legs. Ulfgar's shot is blocked pretty clean by Mrks this time. And Mrks has split his legs, but he's doing a really good job after he does that of moving that trailing leg back in. So he's not leaving it flagged out. And here, Mrks has clean left the ground as he tries to drive power for that chop. He loves that sort of dropping chop. So this is going to hum down pretty hard. And Mrks has left quite a bit. Now he's doing another one. Now to do a double overhead chop like that, you can see that he's had to work a lot of body mechanics to get that angle in for a second powerful shot. Ulfgar picks it up with the basket. And it looks like Mrks is saying, you tagged me in the hip. So I don't, let's see, I was maybe so distracted by Mrks' movement. There's the shot that lands. Wow, that's cool. Okay, so we can't see much of it, but let's take a look. Pay attention to what Ulfgar does in the background, and then watch his sword travel through this space. So he throws that snap, sword block he shield blocks the first chop from Mrks. And then, maybe he takes it in the head. It's a little hard to say. Can't really see what happens here. Maybe it's a shield block, maybe it's not. But Ulfgar brings the sword in front of his own shield. At this point, the sword has traveled in sort of an S shape like this, and it's here, angled, and his elbow is in front of his shield. So he's got his elbow basically in front of his chest, his arm is bent, he's got some power stored in the tip of the sword, and what he does is uncork a sort of moulinet, a sort of unwinding shot. It's pretty cool. And drops it down into Mrks' hip. And you see that by the time you look at the tip of the sword, let's see if we can look at the tip of his sword travel through the air. It does some pretty complicated motions. First we see it go like this, right? Then it drops down here and stays put. Then we see it flip and rotate, and then go down into Mrks' hip. That's pretty cool. So that's a cool shot. And he's also, if you notice, he's dropped his body a lot, partially somewhat in defense, I'm sure, but also that helped deliver the power into Mrks' hip. And as you can see, Mrks isn't even really perceiving a threat down there, because it would be relatively easy for him to push his shield over if he had perceived that threat. In fact, he finishes that shot because he's still in motion before he recognizes the body shot. All right, let's do one more pass. Okay, going, as Mrks would call it, Cora. Alright, so let's go back and take a look at that. So, this is a step in and wrestle move, sort of An Tir style, to me, anyway. And I do something similar, probably because Mrks has done this a bunch to me. He sort of just wants to see, probably, how people are going to react. So he steps in, gets the sword forward. Now, Ulfgar's not throwing into that, which allows Mrks the chance to step forward. Now, here, Ulfgar plants his foot. He's like, I'm not backing up anymore. Mrks gets his sword forward. That's not a shot. That's just playing sticky hand. That's saying, now our swords are in contact. I know where you are. This is now a sort of, wrestle's not the right word, but it's the one that comes to mind. Now, Mrks has got his sword laid over top of Ulfgar's. Ulfgar, at this point, needs to extricate his sword if he's going to throw a shot. Mrks' blade is on top, so it's a little easier for him to extricate his sword if he does. And this is a place where a lot of other people would say, like, now's when you knee them in the crotch or hit them with a shield. In the SCA, that's not allowed. So they're sort of tangled. Marcus goes high with the shield, and the other thing he's doing, now he's got the sword and the shield on Ulfgar's weapon, or his arm. He's not intentionally manipulating the arm with that. That might be on the basket, but from what Marcus can see, and he's not pushing hard, he's basically tangling Ulfgar up. The challenge is, there's a slot right here. And if Ulfgar can get his sword free and yank the hand down, he can throw into that gap. So they wrestle. Ulfgar's not giving much ground. Marcus is sort of forward and leaning on Ulfgar. Ulfgar's being a little bit more stable. Here you can see now at this point, Marcus has got a sword almost parallel to Ulfgar's, which makes it easier for Ulfgar's sword to get free, but knowing Marcus, what he's probably trying to do is get free for a body wrap. That's probably the wrong way, but for the body wrap or the leg wrap around the shield. So that's when you strike with the back edge of the sword. So Marcus wants to get that shot. It's one of his best shots. Ulfgar takes a big step back. He's trying to get that gap. Oh, now Marcus is throwing for that wrap, and he's going high for it. Now the challenge with throwing high at this point, Ulfgar's still got his shield in contact, and his sword is still there for defense. So if Marcus throws the body wrap there, or the high wrap, there's a lot of defense in the way. And Ulfgar hangs his sword down behind him for the block. So that's sort of like a scorpion tail block. And now, I don't remember how it resolved in the past, but if I were Ulfgar, as soon as that sword comes free here, what I would want to do is rip right into that slot. So let's see if that's what he does. Bam. So that is what happens. You can see Marcus has been trying to maintain contact with the shield, but Ulfgar's really good at getting his elbow and forearm free and free of manipulation, driving with the elbow, and he's got a lot of strength and power too. So it's not easy to just sort of like, some folks you can kind of give them a little bump and their shot is no good. It kind of screws them up. Ulfgar's not that guy. So Ulfgar gets that shot into the center, doesn't land hard, so it's not a good shot, and Marcus is back into the same position. Now he's trying to throw a little lower. So here's where they both decide what they're going to do. At this point, from this point forward, it's execution, and Marcus got his shield up and tabled flat, trying to control Ulfgar's sword. So Marcus says, okay, I want this target here. Goes wide, throws that wrap, and what I think happens, I'm not sure if Ulfgar loses the arm or not, but notice when Marcus committed to the shot, Ulfgar's spine was here. Ulfgar takes a pretty deep step this direction, and by the time it hits, Ulfgar's spine is here. So Marcus's wrap hasn't really developed, right? If he had been where he was and Marcus got the sword all the way around, then that would have landed with a lot of power. The other thing is Ulfgar's shield edge is also here at this point, so he might have blocked a bunch or all of that wrap. Meanwhile, that same bread and butter, crank the body to the left and throw the offside right into that shoulder and head region. So really, really good step. Like that right there demonstrates the power of a really good step at the right time. So again, don't know if that wrap landed on him, but it certainly would have landed with full power, and it might have also been partially blocked by the shield. Meanwhile, the counter offside landed well. So again, good practice and training fights. This is probably where I'll stop it, just because I can talk at length. So hopefully this was useful to folks. This was a special request from Sir Marcus to go over this practice footage and do a fight breakdown there. I've started to receive requests from other people, so if there's fight footage of you or of someone else that you would like me to break down, I will do my best to do so. Hopefully there's some fruitful input there, but you know, I don't claim to be the world's best fighter or even close. So there's also a good chance that I missed a bunch of things. So if you have questions, comments, suggestions about the fight, the video, anything like that, please leave them. There's all sorts of things I don't see and a bunch of things I see wrong. So please include your discussion. And again, reach out to me if there's any other video you would like me to review. All right. Thanks.